Hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what is making the headlines with the Daily Mail's consultant editor, Andrew Pearce, and the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire. Great to see both of you, and you're here with us, I know, until just before midnight. So, front pages then, let us start with The Guardian. It leads on the NHS maternity scandal at the Shrewsbury and Telford NHS Trust, with police now examining 600 cases related to baby and mother deaths. Childbirth is not safe for women in England, is the way the Times puts it, after the report's author warned many failures were not unique to the trust. Daily Express highlights the voice of one anguished mother who vows justice is coming for every baby. The Daily Mirror also leads on the scandal with the headline, Stolen Lives. The Metro, meanwhile, carries the story of Jamie Wallis, the Conservative who today came out as the UK's first transgender MP and also revealed that he was raped and targeted in a blackmail plot. The Telegraph quotes from a speech by Sir Jeremy Fleming, the head of the intelligence organisation GCHQ. He's set to give later, claiming Vladimir Putin's advisers are afraid to tell him the truth about how Russia's invasion of Ukraine is playing out. The Financial Times reports that the German and Austrian governments are poised to ration gas supplies from Russia in a dispute over whether it should be paid for in euros or rubles. The Star pays tribute to the singer Tom Parker, who died today at the age of 33, having found fame with the boy band The Wanted. And The Sun says a masked burglar broke into the Beckhams' £40 million mansion in West London while the family were at home. Well, a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out those front pages while you watch us. So let's return then to Andrew Pearce and Kevin Maguire. Properly welcome to both of you, but let's go straight, Andrew, to The Times, which is this report after a long-running scandal, with The Times now suggesting that childbirth is not safe for women in England. How endemic are the problems that were seen at this trust?
Well, that was the way when I started listening to the author of the report, the senior maternity officer in Britain, talking about this particular trust. You thought, why will it only be happening? Why is it only happening in one particular trust? These problems were going on over 20 years. Warnings were ignored. 200 children, babies probably died that shouldn't have. Many more born with all sorts of abnormalities, fractures to skulls, breathing problems, lack of oxygen during delivery, which is leading some of these children to develop conditions like cerebral palsy. It really is staggering that this was going on for quite so long. And the worry is that this is a problem that could be affecting other trusts, and we do not know yet how bad and severe that issue is. What I think is quite significant, though, about this report, the chief executive of the NHS, of the trust, says she's not going to resign. She's been there for 2 years. Well, I suspect she might be in more difficulty than she thinks. But amazingly, that trust has had 10 chief executives in the last 20 years. And that sort of churn just can't be good for continuity. And you wonder why so many of them came and went so quickly. What was the problem? Were things being covered up? That is the worst part of this as well, for the mothers and the fathers of these children who died and the children who were badly injured. Was there a cover-up? Is there a cover-up? And we now know the police are looking at 600 other cases. So potentially, if there was a cover-up, it could become a criminal matter.
That's interesting, isn't it? Back to the systemic issue, Donna Ockenden, report author, Kevin, called for systemic change across the NHS. She said that safe maternity care for all must be the legacy of the babies who died. And certainly you speak to many women, most women possibly, most couples. Everybody's got a bit of a story to tell, of elements that came close for all of their births, effectively. And some of the things we saw in this report, like caesarean sections were discouraged, the natural birth thing, the culture of bullying, the trust failing to learn from mistakes, and people, and really fundamentally, overwork for maternity staff. All of those are in every hospital, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's about a shortage, is it 2,000 midwives? I think I saw the figure, but it's a grim day for the National Health Service, and there will be expectant mothers and their partners will be absolutely terrified tonight after this, because it's going to clearly go way beyond Shrewsbury and Telford. The problem may not be as severe, but as Donna Ockenden has warned, it's not unique, and it's going to be widespread across England. There's going to be problems. And there are going to be other people who've had terrible experiences of birth, and they've lost children, or they've been born damaged in some way, who are now going to be wondering whether it was because of a failing rather than something else. It's just really, really awful. And of course, because it's around birth, it should be the most joyous moment in a family's experience, the birth of a new life, and everybody wants to be happy. And it's just awful. It is just so grim, this. And I think the health secretary is going to have to consider some type of review around the country now, rather than just looking at one area. But those figures, though, as Andrew said, 201 babies might have died needlessly. 9 mothers may have also died when they could have been saved. And as the Guardian's picking up, West Mercia police now investigating 600 cases. And people who complained or had a terrible experience, they weren't allowed to read reviews. They were too often just brushed off, swept aside. There's no way to treat anybody. The NHS is a fantastic, precious public service, but where there are failings, they've got to be investigated, corrected, and called out.
Yes, there's The Guardian. We're watching out there. NHS maternity scandal. Police investigating 600 further cases, the figure that you brought up as well, Andrew. And the Times quoting the 2,000 midwife shortage that you mentioned, Kevin, also saying that 4 in 10 NHS maternity units in England are rated as inadequate or requiring improvement, meaning they do not meet safety standards. So clearly a lot of work to be done, certainly. Let's move on, shall we, to Ukraine, which is on the front page of the Telegraph. And we are expecting, overnight, in fact, a speech by Sir Jeremy Fleming, the director of the UK's Intelligence, Cyber and Security Agency, who will say what, Andrew?
Well, he's the boss of GCHQ, which is the Great Listening Centre, and he is effectively going to reveal just how disorganised and the lack of discipline within the Russian High Command now about the conduct of this war. He's going to say, because they've managed to listen in to a lot of the conversations in Russia between the military and Putin, that Putin has been not told what's going on. They've been shielding him from how badly the conscripts in the army are performing, about the failure of a number of strategic objectives. And it's a sign that this war effort is disintegrating. And it also, Sir Jeremy is going to be saying also that there is a growing backlash within the upper echelons of the military against Putin, because this is seen as his war. It does remind you more and more of Hitler, who was deranged, we know, and evil, but thought he was also a great general. Hitler was just a corporal in the First World War, but took many of the decisions in the Second World War. It's clear Putin's been running a lot of this war himself, and he was a KGB assassin, a KGB thug, but he's not a general. And it seems that the morale of the Russian army is in a bad way. More and more Russian soldiers are deserting, sabotaging their own equipment. And on some cases, Sir Jeremy's going to tell us, they've even managed to shoot down their own aircraft. It is not funny, but it just shows a measure of this once feared fighting force is becoming, in terms of military terms, a laughingstock.
Well, as well as GCHQ, we've also heard from both the Pentagon and the White House today. The White House Communications Director, Kate Bedingfield, saying, what I can say, we have information that Putin felt misled by the Russian military, which has resulted in persistent tension between Putin and his military leadership. The Telegraph suggesting he has now sacked 8 generals already. Now, this is what happens when everyone's so scared of you, they can't speak up, Kevin.
I think that's right. If you're an autocrat, you bark orders, people are not going to tell you the truth, because it may be not what you want to hear, and then you end up in this disaster. It's absolutely terrible for Ukraine. It was an unprovoked invasion. All my sympathy goes with the Ukrainians. But it's a disaster for Putin and Russia too, because militarily they've been shown to be a lot weaker than they projected, and the sanctions will really bite back at home on the economy. But the reports are coming out of the US and the UK. They are just absolutely astonishing. And Jeremy Fleming, I mean, he's probably got the biggest ears in Britain. You know, he is the eavesdropper in chief, GCHQ. If we have anything world-beating, it's surveillance. Sometimes, of course, concern about what happens at home and innocent people. But certainly in this case, he probably knows more what's happening within the Russian forces than Putin does, because he'll be intercepting almost all the communications, and that's why you can have so many details. Now, shooting down their own aircraft, yes, that's a low morale, but let's not forget in the Iraq War there were blue-on-blue attacks, often by mistake. To American forces, I recall killing some British service people too. But no, it's a disaster for Putin. It's a tragedy for the Ukrainians.
Well, we'll certainly listen out for what he has to say. A statement from him coming very shortly. Just quickly to the Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby in the last couple of hours has said that Russia was withdrawing about 20% of its troops around Kiev and sending them to Belarus with the thought that they would be resupplying there. So we'll keep an eye on that too. Plenty more still to come though. Britain's first transgender MP has come out. We will discuss his story when we come back. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, Andrew Pearce and Kevin Maguire, looking at the stories in tomorrow's newspapers. Welcome back to both of you. So, Jamie Wallace, front page of the Metro. Tell us his story then, Kevin.
Yes, Jamie Wallace, the Bridgend MP, has said he's trans and he was raped and a blackmailer trying to extort £500,000 to reveal that all, and was subsequently jailed. Very brave of him to come out. He actually says, I'm trans, or to be more accurate, I want to be. He still wants to be called he or him, but is the first MP to publicly acknowledge to be they're trans, and it's a huge amount of sympathy for him. And it's good to have in Parliament somebody who can speak from direct experience on an issue which has created a lot of heat on both sides of the debate, and too often it just results in a slagging match, which it doesn't help anybody, and but it needs a lot of respect. Hopefully that'll come. Now, Boris Johnson welcomed him. However, he was cracking transphobic jokes last night at a Tory fundraising dinner. So maybe having an MP, particularly a Conservative MP, will make some in the Conservative Party and elsewhere, other parties too, who make cruel jokes, cease. And also, if the Conservatives are thinking of launching a culture war, might have to think twice.
That's interesting. I don't know if you want to mention that. I was going to move on to the Star, but Andrew, did you want to pick up on that just quickly as well?
Well, I would just say that the joke Boris Johnson made in the speech was actually at the expense of Keir Starmer, who doesn't appear to know whether a woman whether a woman can have a penis or not, which is pretty obvious to most people. A man has one of those. That's what the joke was about. But I would say about this MP, I think it's remarkably courageous of him. He put a statement out at a very odd time, 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was an extraordinary statement. And then he put out a second one. And what was really nice to see was MPs from across the Commons greeting him, congratulating him, supporting him, whether it was Keir Starmer, Boris Johnson, or the Lib Dems, the SNP, because he is the first. Maybe he won't be the last.
And the quote in the Metro, I have never lived my truth, and I'm not sure how. Perhaps it starts with telling everybody. So the words there of Jamie Wallace as he goes through his process, if I can put it that way. Quick look at the Daily Star. A tragedy of the Wanted's Tom. He fought until the end. Wife's tribute as a singer dies, aged just 33. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The Wanted singer Tom Parker, who has died from brain cancer at the age of 33. Both of you, thank you very much indeed. Kevin Maguire and Andrew Pearce, see you shortly. Thank you very much.